Hi guys, and welcome to my video for or my getting started video for DXF Exporter. In this video I'll be demonstrating some of the functionality of this sheet metal batch export utility for Inventor. Alright, so let's get going. The first thing we need to do is obviously start the application. Once started, you will be presented with a dialog box like this. The first thing we need to make sure of is that we've got our assembly that we want to scan for sheet metal parts. We've got that assembly open in the background. So let me just minimize this quickly. Alright, so I've got a very basic Inventor assembly open with some sheet metal parts, which will obviously be picked up by the DXF Exporter application, and from there we'll be setting some output options for generating the flat patterns that can be obviously then laser cut or flame cut or whatever you need to do with it after that. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is just scan the assembly and detect all the sheet metal parts in the active open assembly in Inventor. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so the sheet metal parts will then appear in this grid or list at the bottom. If you pick the rows, you should see an image appear of the component. You should be able to then also pick up the quantities to make sure that that's correct, the thickness of each part in the desired unit, etc. If you are not sure about a component, you can also open the file from here. If you open the file, it will actually open an Inventor. And once done, you can just close it up and just maximize your DXF Exporter application window again. Alright, so that's quite a nice new feature that's been added in this release. You can also manually add components, delete components, change the quantity of the components for export, and also clear the table, obviously. Alright, so some of the geometry features or options that's available here is you can simplify the splines to line segments. Alright, that's sometimes a requirement for some of the CNC applications out there. You can also merge your profiles into a single polyline if possible. There's a reduced double line functionality for the DXF output file. You can include or exclude bend lines, center marks, and also export unconsumed sketches. Alright, so just one thing to note here, your sketches, your unconsumed sketches need to be sketches created in the flat pattern environment. In other words, it can't be a sketch. Let me open this part quickly. Alright, so it's got to be a sketch that's created inside this environment. Okay, in other words, a sketch inside the flat pattern environment. Can't be a sketch that's created in the folded environment. Alright, just something to note there. Let's get back to that window. There we go. Alright, so with this option, obviously, on, the unconsumed sketches in the flat pattern environment will be exported. Sometimes that's quite useful to create extra geometry in your exported DXF file for processing reasons, or whatever the case may be. Alright, then we've got layer customization options. We now have the option to, we've got a couple of new layers, and we've also got the option to set the layer color, which was quite a highly requested user feature. So that's been added, and which actually works quite well. Alright, then on the art properties inside the text file, also a couple of new additional sort of art properties that's been added here, stock number and title. You also able to rename the label. So in other words, instead of having the text inside the DXF file saying part number or stock number, you can put maybe your own text there in a different language or whatever you want to label that text entity as. Alright, but the actual part number will still be exported and be next to that label, obviously. Alright, you can also change the text height over here. Alright, then include our properties in output file name. Alright, so this is putting the art property as text inside the DXF file. In other words, if you open the DXF file after exporting inside Inventor, inside AutoCAD, for instance, you'd be able to see the text as entities inside the DXF file. This option here will include the art properties inside the actual file name, so that when looking at the file name, you might have the part number, the material, the thickness, and the quantity all inside the file name. So you can, by just looking at the file name, you can recognize the part and the quantity and all those parameters from just the file name. All right, so also quite a useful option and quite widely used by a lot of people already. All right, so let's get going. Let's get some of these DXF files created, and let's have a look at our output. All right, so I need to do some, make a couple of settings. So the first thing I would like to do is set some of my layer colors over here. I will set the outer profile to red, interior to yellow perhaps, bend lines. We are actually not going to export the bend lines, so I'm not going to worry about those. The text I can set to maybe, let's make it cyan, arc. Centers, I'm actually going to remove the centers so that we don't see any centers, because my laser cutter might try and burn those centers into the material. Alright, so unconsumed sketches, we're not exporting any of those anyway, so I'm going to just leave that as default as well. Alright, some of the properties which I want to be inserted into my DXF files as text, I am going to insert part number, description, which we have, the material is obviously important, thickness and quantity, so that whoever gets this DXF file for processing will immediately see all this information once the file is opened, so that there's no mistakes being made on material usage, thickness settings, and how many parts needs to be cut for this assembly or for this job. Alright, in the output file name, I also need to put in my part number. I want to put the material, thickness, and the quantity in there as well. So this is a good example of what the file name is going to look like. We'll see now once we export this. Alright, so at this point, I can now just export. We've also added the function or ability to overwrite any existing DXF files in the folder to make sure that you don't end up with duplicates. If the setting is not checked, your new files will be incremented with an underscore and a number. So if the files exist, the new file name will be filename underscore 1. If filename underscore 1 already exists, it'll be filename underscore 2, and so it'll carry on. So it'll automatically detect the file name and increment it based on the last number that was found. Alright, in this case I'm just going to say overwrite existing files. We're going to export this now at this point. Alright, so I'm going to just create a new folder and call it CNC Profiles and select that folder. Alright, you can see it running through it, and the window actually popped up on my other screen, but here's the example. Alright, so you can see inside CNC Profiles we've got the base part, the clamp, the clevis, cylinder bracket, and front bracket. As you can see, because of the settings that we've enabled here, include our properties and output file name, you can see that the part numbers have been brought through. So there's base, and then it's material. It says mat is equal to steel, thickness is 6, quantity is 1. .dxf. Alright, so it's completely renamed the file to be a string of properties as it's been enabled over here. Alright, so the next thing is we're going to open these files inside AutoCAD to have a look at the text entities and some of the geometry that's been created inside the DXF file. Alright, so let's have a look at the output, the DXF files created. Alright, so I've opened a session of AutoCAD in the background. Let me just get back to my dialog box. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to just drag and drop some of these DXF files into a blank AutoCAD session, so we can have a look at what the file output looks like. Alright, so there you can see the outer layer has been set to red as per our settings in DXF Exporter. We didn't change the layer color. We just set the layer name. We just set the color of the layers. So you can see the text is cyan, and the inner profiles is yellow, and the outer profiles is red. Okay, so let's minimize that. I didn't rename the layers. I've left it blank, so the default layer names will be used for all the profile entities, as you can see, but the colors have been set. Alright, so the text is cyan, the inner profiles, interior profiles are yellow, and the outer profile layer is red. Alright, and this was the text I was talking about. So the setting over here, include our properties as text inside the output file or the DXF file. So you can select which properties you want to include, and also what you want to call the labels if you want to rename the labels perhaps. Otherwise the default labels will be used, part number, description, title, material, thickness, or you can rename it and maybe in a different language, or just rename it altogether, whatever you want to call it. Alright guys, so that's the output file. The next thing I want to just talk about is merged row detection and the issues that you may face with merged BOM rows. Okay guys, so in DXF Exporter version 3 we've added the functionality or ability for the application to detect any merged rows inside your bill of materials in Inventor that contains varying components inside the one BOM row. Alright, this is obviously, it could pose a bit of an issue in terms of quantity detection for the application, and it might actually be an issue that could be highlighted early up for you to investigate. Alright, so here's an example to explain a little bit more. I've got an assembly open in the background. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the sheet metal detection on this assembly. Alright, so this window will pop up. Merged BOM rows detected. Alright, basically what it tells you, it says BOM item number 4 basically is a merged BOM row inside Inventor, but it contains two parts, two varying parts. In other words, two different sheet metal components, as you can see there. So by clicking this, you can quickly see, alright, these two parts are actually two different sheet metal parts, and they are still merged into one BOM row inside Inventor. Alright, so that's something that might pose a bit of a problem, because obviously when a BOM row is merged inside Inventor, that row is treated as one component. So if you export the sheet metal components from within DXF Exporter, it will create one DXF file of the first item found in that BOM row, but the quantity for that item as it's exported will be set to the total quantity of both of these components in the assembly, which is obviously, unless it's intentional, it could cause a bit of a problem. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to investigate that BOM item number 4 is in fact, or should in fact be merged into one row. So I can see by just looking at this that this might be a bit of a problem, because we're looking at two separate or two different components, but it's merged into one BOM row. Alright, so I'm going to close this, go back to my assembly. Also what we can see is then there's that component. We don't see the other component in this list. Alright, as you can see, it's not inside here. So all we see is this one component, the first one in this list over here. The second one is not inside my list for DXFs to be exported. The quantity over here is now set to 32. Alright, so let's go and have a look inside Inventor. what's going on. So we go to our bill of materials. I'm going to just have a look at this. You can see it says BOM row number 4. All right, so there it is there. Immediately you can see that the preview is not available. Now when you see that, typically what that could mean is that there's two different parts obviously clashing in terms of which preview should be shown here. So if you've got two different parts, then this is typically what's going to happen. All right, so I'm going to disable the row merge function in Inventor. And there you can see, all right, so we've got this component now that's showing. It tells me there's a quantity of 16, all right, which is perfect. And where's that other one? Let's see. There we go. So there's the other one over here, and it says that one is quantity 16 as well. All right, so this is actually the state that this thing should be in. So basically what it's telling me is that there's a part number duplication. This one is screen frame inlet flange gusset. And this one is also screen frame inlet flange gusset, but it's a different component. So obviously that's it's a bit of an issue that needs to be addressed. The part number for either this component or this one here should be fixed or changed so that it becomes unique. All right. Okay. So once this is done, let's quickly run a rescan. Right. There's no components now listed inside the BOM row merge detection window. So also if we look at this components, the components added to the list here, you can see there's the gusset, or that one, and it's 16 of, and there's that one, sorry, there's that one as well, 16 of. So now both components are listed with the correct quantity, and it's ready for export. All right, guys, that concludes my presentation of DXF Exporter for Inventor. I hope you guys give it a good go and give us some feedback regarding the functionality, and any improvements you may require, please let us know. Thank you.